only following orders. The story you're about to hear is one that's been, for the last 70 years, left to wither in the hearts of those who can recall it. Of the 12 of us present that day, only I remain. And my own end is rapidly approaching. I write this tale with a shaky hand, solely in order to console myself in my final moments. And I hope that whoever may discover this document, I hope you'll refrain from judgment upon me or my comrades until the end. I distinctly recall sitting in a tent with my fellow soldiers just outside of Berlin, huddling around a shortwave radio and listening to the trials of our nation's greatest foes. They feigned insanity, pled guilty, gave harrowing accounts of every detail of every single crime committed under their command and under their watch. My favorites, however, were the ones who pled innocent, the ones who said I was just following orders. I had to wonder what I would say. Had the war ended with Moscow under the Iron Eagle? What would I say? What would I say if I was asked to justify my actions in war? I believe I know exactly what I would say, and it would seem the same as the men being jeered on by the entire Red Army, excluding the 10 of us gathered in this tent. You see, the 2 luckiest of us had already died. It was a quiet village in eastern Germany, December 4th, 1944. We were under orders to seek out any soldiers lying in wait to ambush the main column of the army. Our sergeant, Ivan, took the lead. The rest of us were falling in line behind him. It was raining pretty heavily, obscuring our vision. A sharp crack jeered my attention, and I fell immediately to my stomach. I smelled smoke and heard a thump in the dirt about a dozen feet in front of me. The sound of gunfire roared in my ears as we returned fire. We had no idea where the shot had come from, so each one of us took our best guess and fired in that direction. We knew we wouldn't hit the shooter, but we had hoped to at least scare him off. I decided to keep my fire up in order to cover my comrades as they reloaded their weapons. When the gunfire stopped, I watched carefully at the nearby houses. A quick movement by the roadside caught my eye. I quickly shot off a couple of rounds at the dark mass. At least one of my shots must have landed, because whatever it was fell onto the ground, unmoving. By now, my fellow soldiers had finished reloading, so I ejected my magazine and slid a new one in its place. We were all still for some time, waiting for the return fire. When it never came, Ivan got up to a crouch and quietly walked over to the corpse. He felt for the pulse, and then he returned to us. "Yes, we got him," he said. In his eyes, I saw something that I've never seen before. A kind of deep sadness and regret. No matter how much I pushed, he wouldn't tell me why. We stood and casually walked over to the house where the shooter had come from. Ivan knocked on the door. We waited for a moment. Ivan finally planted his foot firmly on the door, rearing to kick it down. But a shotgun blast blew through the door. Ivan fell to the ground, riddled with a buckshot. We returned fire through the door, then swiftly beat it down with the stocks of our rifle. Inside, broken glass littered the floor, and bullet holes were scattered all along the wall. On the ground was a young woman, fatally shot 4 times. In her hand, the shotgun that killed Ivan. We were fed up. We had had more than enough of this village. We ransacked the house, throwing over tables and filling our pockets with valuables. When we were finished, we threw gas lamps onto the floor and tossed matches into the pooling liquid. We left the house on fire. It was only once we were outside that, we heard the wailing. By then, the flames had taken hold, and it was too late to re-enter the building. The mother had hidden her baby. The mother had hidden her babe before turning to fight us, and we hadn't found it before torching the house. The wails continued for a few minutes, before falling silent among the crackling of the flames. A man burst from the building down the street and sprinted towards us, screaming in German. Our translator gaped at him, and we raised our rifles. He held his hand up for us to stop. The German man shoved past us and ran up to the burning building. He hesitated only briefly at the doorway before running through. He never came back out. By the time the fire had died, we couldn't even see it anymore. The rest of our mission went by in silence. When we doubled back to where we came, we found people standing in the street staring at us. Some were angry, some were sad. but most just had these blank stares. I can still see it in my nightmare. When we passed the house, I stopped. I announced to no one in particular that I had to take a leak. No one believed me, but it didn't matter. I stepped into the shell of the house that we destroyed. There, on the floor in the bedroom, I saw the skeleton of a man that had been crushed by a wooden beam, and a smaller collection of misshapen bones in his arms. In the yard, by the fence, I saw a little boy with a toy gun, dressed in the oversized uniform of a German soldier. That night, we all had nightmares. The man with his wild eyes told each of us that he would come back for us, one after the other. The next day, we laughed it off together. We had thrown ourselves into our duties. We had fought hard to not think about that screaming man and the wailing baby. One by one, as the years went by, we all died. Here, one of us fell from a tower that we were working on. There, an aggressive form of cancer suddenly appeared in the brain. Never obvious, but always suspicious to us. Because we knew. We all knew what was happening. Then, when there were just two of us, Joseph and I, he had come to visit me. When he knocked, I thought my time had come. But I should have known. I should have fucking known that I would be last. He's coming for me, Joseph said. It's my time now. I would have liked to console him, to reassure him that it was all just a coincidence, but, well, we both knew better. That night, Joseph cried on my shoulder, and I on his. I'm so sorry, he sobbed. I didn't know. The next day, he shot himself in his apartment. That was a week ago, and now it's my turn. I know he's coming. Every night in my sleep, he gazes into my eyes and smiles. Every night, his smile is just a little bit wider. Last night, he began to speak. Quietly, so quietly I couldn't hear anything of what he was saying, other than just being able to make out that he was speaking. I don't want to know what he has to say. I can't sleep tonight. I'll stay up as late as possible, and before I sleep, I'll climb to the roof and stand on the edge. I must. I cannot know what he's going to say. They shot at us. The woman killed Ivan. We couldn't have known about the baby. We were just eliminating the resistance. That's all. We were only following orders. We were just following orders. I would like to give a big thank you to all the patrons who are currently listed on screen right now. Content might slow down a little bit just because it's getting to the holiday season and I'm going to be a very busy dad. You know how it is. But thank you, Dan R, Neophyte Games, Chaos X, Mr. Swiston, Official Jerboa, JY, Pyromancer, Hayden MH, Ethan A, Daniel H, Maximilian Charles P, and Deneen H. I really cannot say it enough. You guys 100% absolutely keep the channel alive.